World Championships for wrestling is just about concluded, and it doesn't come without my complete frustration as it is every year. I can tell you guys this, there's two publications to get news on wrestling. And I would love to state them both for you right now to give them both shout outs, except I'm going to complain tremendously, so I'll spare you saying their names. But both publications in unison have advertised the World Championships for the last 9 months as taking place September 20th and September 21st. Now, when that first got advertised, I knew that simply could not be true. Because wrestling generally takes a week to do. You have the Greco-Roman, which takes a couple of days. You have the women's wrestling, which takes a couple of days. You have the men's wrestling, which takes a couple of days. It's generally like literally a week-long process. But both publications insisted for anybody that wanted to read that they were going to take place September 20th through September 21st. Not only is that absolutely not true, we aren't even to September 20th, and they're 3/4 of the way done. But this is what you have in the wrestling world. You have complete and continual false and misinformation. Being a wrestling fan is the hardest thing in the world there is to do. It requires so much work. I will never forget in 2008 going out to the Olympic trials. That was advertised, boarding a plane, buying the tickets, getting a hotel room, renting the car. Oh, and by the way, I went with Olympic silver medalist Matt Lindland. When we pull into UNLV to watch, there's absolutely not a car in the arena. We think, well, that's weird. But we park and we get out and walk up anyway. Well, no, that was weigh-in day. And for reasons unknown, the wrestling world advertised that as a competition day. There was no wrestling. But this is what you have to put up with. So the World Championships, which are going to be contested September 20th through September 21st, which has been identified and promised to the world for 9 months now, are 70% concluded, and we have not reached September 20th or September 21st. Now, there's the bad news. Let's get into the good news, because we've got some extremely fierce competition. And by the way, this is pre-Olympic year, meaning this is the year prior to the Olympics. Why is that relevant? For wrestling, you must qualify as a country the weight class. That is very confusing and very complicated and very hard to do. But here's what it looks like. The governing body, meaning the International Olympic Committee, will demand that you qualify the weight class. The country that has qualified can then go back domestically and have whatever kind of a trials or a process they want to determine what athlete gets to fulfill that weight class that has been qualified. Okay, fine. But the first step in qualification is the World Championships this year, of which, if you finish in the top 6, your country automatically qualifies. Well, the Olympic Games allow for 24 people per bracket. So 18 athletes per bracket will have to go through a year-long process, from specific designated tournaments to continental championships, trying to get just that weight accepted into that event. And that doesn't have to do with figuring out which athlete will be represented. Okay, fine. But boy, if you could get that monkey off your back of coming in top 6 this year and not have to be one of those 18 guys that's got to fly around the globe and go and wrestle in very undesirable locations, which are the locations that house these kinds of tournaments for this specific sport, sure would be a relief. Great. I'm sure we can all agree to that, but I wanted to take the time to lay the story out and explain to you guys how hard it is to qualify, because I think maybe it'll make you respect the wrestlers even more. So our Greco is first up, 6 weights up, 6 weights down. We didn't get in there. None. No weight classes came in the top 6 for the qualification. So we got to go through that process. Just a tough one, the way that it goes. Freestyle. Getting ready to kick off. Freestyle is the shoes on the other foot in this country, where we are a world powerhouse. As a matter of fact, I cannot think off the top of my head, and I'm very good at this, of an Olympics since this new qualification process started where we missed. I could for Greco. I cannot think of any weight in freestyle where we have missed. But if you ever wanted to be a wrestling fan, now is the time. Schneider and Cox likely to be the same weight next year. If that isn't true, that means that Cox and Taylor will be the same weight next year. Dake and Burroughs likely to be the same weight next year. If that isn't true, then Dake and Taylor will be the same weight next year. So we've got 5 world champions. 2 of them will stay at home for sure. I mean, all of them have to make the team, but of those 5, 2 weight classes go away because it's the Olympic Games as opposed to the World Championships. They allow less weight classes. And it's a very exciting time. It's a very, very exciting time to be a wrestling fan. The biggest match that wrestling can put on right now would be a trilogy match between Kyle Snyder versus Sajilov. They are on opposite sides of the bracket. I will be up at 1 in the morning, same as I have been every single day this week, to take in the action. And there's a lot of things that have to happen before these two can meet up. But I will tell you, the last time they met up was 365 days ago. Absolutely packed arena. And it was true back then as well. It was true a year ago. It's true today. That was the biggest match that wrestling could put on. They closed out the event. It wasn't even the right weight class. They saved it, saved the match, made sure all the fans stayed, closed it out. Schneider got in on attack. Sajilov defended it, put him on his back, and pinned him quickly. 18 seconds, 22 seconds, something really quick. And I will just tell you as a wrestling fan, it was devastating. It was one of these devastating moments, largely because there was no guarantee we would ever get the match again. However, there was a guarantee that if we get the match again, it will be 1 year from now. It absolutely positively will not happen sooner. Schneider would do it again later that day. Sajilov is a chicken. Most of the Russians are. The Russians are very, very against competing in hard competitions for whatever reason. Then when they get to these really tough competitions, they go and grab all the medals. They do a really great job. But as far as having that competitive spirit and drive and wanting to go out and do something, for example, one of the most decorated athletes of all time, and probably the most decorated Russian athlete of all time, a guy named Alexander Karelin. And he had won the Worlds and the Olympics every year and had never lost a match starting in 1988. He went all the way through 2000. He had never lost a world or Olympic competition. Ultimately, he was defeated by American Rulon Gardner in the Olympic finals in Sydney in 2000. But when that ended, that took his entire career streak to like 60 wins and 1 loss. And I'm looking at it and going, you've been doing this since 1988? You've never been beaten? You've only had 60 matches? Where have you been? Where have you possibly, how did you stay motivated when your coaches or governing body or yourself was hiding you from competition for that long? I don't have the answer to that question. I'm just sharing with you how hard it is and how difficult it is to get these kinds of matches. So hopefully, and we're going to know in about 24 hours, hopefully Schneider, Sajilov lock up one more time. Hopefully, old Chael and all of America gets a different result.